What time is it? It's time for another Every Other Wednesday.
As you guys are doing that, as people are filtering in, I will notice, you will notice, is that I'm the only one here, and that Mike and Richard and Jeff are not, because they are all slackers and they have things called lives and work and social and family stuff. And I'm the only schmuck that doesn't. So what we did is, and we've had this happen a few times before, what we try to do is we actually pre-record something. So we actually pre-recorded something, but it's such a busy time that the pre-recording was actually only, there's only two of us there, and that is myself and Richard. So I'm going to play that. And as we play that, I'll turn off my camera and I'll share my screen, and we can still have the discussion in the chat box as well. So with that said, I will do the official welcome. I'll say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Every Other Wednesday, where we get together every other Wednesday and discuss cultural issues within organizations. Today is October 2nd, 2024. And for people who like the metric system and like only using numbers and not letters like OCT, I took the liberty of doing the number only date, but in very smart ass fashion, because some people like to do the year first, year, month, day, year, day, month, and I put all the different combinations so no one will get confused. It is October 2nd, 2024. Welcome to Every Other Wednesday. My name is Sanjay Nath. I am a speaker and author focusing on leadership and performance, based out of Oakville, Ontario in Canada. And as mentioned, my normal co-hosts are not able to join us. So what we will be doing is showing a pre-recorded video. We actually have a guest. His name is Tyler, and you'll meet Tyler. I will be live in the chat box. I will turn off my screen, turn off my camera and share my screen. Give me 1 second as I get that going. And here we go. Wow, Sanjay, that was an amazing introduction. Thank you so much. Oh,
Yes.
talent. I know talent when I see it.
That
Wow.
was amazing. I was fine. And it's my first time, and it's the best one I've ever seen.
There you go. Of all the ones you've seen. Welcome, everyone. As mentioned, this is a pre-recorded session. We don't want to make people think that, be disingenuous and fake it like it's real. But just do a quick welcome here. Richard, why don't you start us off?
Thank you, Sanjay. My name is Richard Haddon. Hello, everyone. I'm an author and speaker. I wrote Contented Cows Give Better Milk and all the ones that came after that. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, and although right now I am in a lovely part of Nebraska that is totally unencumbered by scenery, and I'm going to be speaking with a group here tomorrow. And I'm just delighted that we could all be here. I'll go ahead and spill the beans tonight because we're burning the midnight oil for this. You can see the beautiful Nebraska moonlight out there, and the lighting is a little different on Sanjay's face too.
I
Welcome.
want to point out, so we got a caution, and I will give Tyler a quick introduction, but you said, you used the term moon. And if you know Tyler's personality, he might, do that on command. Yes.
Oh, no. Okay.
Was this a video thing? This is a video thing, too.
Yeah, you're actually on screen, Tyler.
I'll do a quick intro. My name is Sanjay Nath. I'm a speaker and author focusing on performance and leadership, best known by a brand and a concept called the 10-80-10 principle. I'm based in Oakville, Ontario, just outside of Toronto in Canada. And today we actually have a guest. And I know it's traditional you say a fabulous guest, but I don't want to throw around the term too loosely. I introduced to you a very good friend of mine, Tyler Hayden. Tyler is, I was doing the math. Tyler, you and I go back 28 years ago. We spoke in Kamloops, British Columbia. This is when we were both very early on in our careers, and we shared a room.
You spoke. Had your voices changed?
Well, yes. Tyler hadn't gone through puberty then.
I hadn't got there yet, but
no.
Sanjay already got there. And he told me all about it. It was fabulous.
It was great. And we actually shared a hotel room because the event we were part of, we were trying to save money and stuff. And you can't tell it, but Tyler's actually 6'4". And when I had to play Big Spoon, it was a little awkward. But
yeah, because you all can't tell it, but Sanjay's actually 5'4". So
exactly.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the middle.
There you go. So Tyler is a speaker and author. I'm going to let him do a little bit of a formal intro, but I will say that I've known him for a long time, and to call him high energy is a bit of an understatement. He often makes the Energizer Bunny look like he's moving in slow motion. Tyler is extremely engaging with his presentations. He does a lot of to do with bringing people together, having fun, and I'm hoping he can bring some ideas to the Every Other Wednesday group. So Tyler, say hello and give us a little bit, you're based out of Nova Scotia. Spill the beans. Talk to us.
So my name is Tyler Hayden. I am from the tropics of Nova Scotia, home of the Blue Nose, Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, where I was a town councillor for 4 years. I've been a speaker for 28. Started my business as an outward bound adventure company and quickly transformed into speaking and training and authorship. Written 28 books. Some of them are bestsellers. Some of them are not so good sellers. Some of them are game books. But have the opportunity to work with Fortune 500, Inc. 5000 companies, as well as associations from coast to coast to coast and internationally. So yeah, it's been fabulous.
So
Fabulous.
I'd like to point out, big numbers impress people. And,
Yeah.
sometimes people talk about Fortune 500, Fortune 50. I want to tell you, I've worked with the Fortune 5 million.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love
Haven't
that.
we all?
I love
Haven't
that.
we all?
There you go.
I'm so impressed, Tyler, with the 28 books. It makes Sanjay and me feel like slackers.
I have attention deficit. So the last book
Okay.
I wrote in 7 days. It's
Wow.
175 pages, called Virtually Engaged, and it's all about virtual engagement and how to get people connected online and
Ah,
So hold on a
a
second.
topic we've talked about a good bit.
175 pages. Like, is it all coloring book, or are there actually any words in it as well?
No, most of it's coloring, but
Okay.
it's really about what you do with it. Some people
Okay.
use it just to like level their beds. I'm
So there
fine
you
with
go. Yes. So this is
whatever
a good actually platform to launch from. So you said it's about how to get people virtually engaged. So
right.
tell us a bit about that book.
Yeah, so virtually it came out of just prior to the pandemic, I wrote a book, my quintessential Bible of team building and how to engage people, called The Business That Cared About People. And then about 3 weeks after I launched it, we went into total lockdown. So I got the opportunity to learn a little bit deeper about virtual engagement. I'd been researching it for about 3, 4 years prior to the pandemic. So built this book around a lot of the same philosophies of how we use multiple intelligences, Howard Gardner's theory, the flow theory, McKeltchik-Sent-Me-High's theory, and how we get people engaged based on how they learn. So that's the whole premise. And from there, we go through some different models like Team Swell and how to build good team learning process. And then there's a Rolodex of probably over 100 different activities that you can do quite easily from your home studio.
Okay. So normally,
Wow.
like when I hear you talk, I hear Charlie Brown's Teacher, which I just heard. So I heard a lot of theories and a lot of stuff. So break it down, be pragmatic. You said there's 100 some in there. Give us one or two that people listening on the call could go, yeah, maybe we could try that with the team, or some of the highlights.
For sure. So one of my faves that is fun to do in a virtual environment is a Wikipedia race. And what you do is you give your team a place to start on Wikipedia. So you give them the page as to where they're starting, and you tell them where they have to get to inside Wikipedia. And they can't use any like command keys or that kind of thing to roll through. They just have to hit the hot links. And whoever can get from that first page to the second page that you want in the least number of clicks or the fastest, they're declared the winner. So that's one. Another one that we had a ton of fun with during the pandemic was kind of a throwback to Robin Leach's Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, or MTV's Cribs. We were doing shows around our refrigerator because people's refrigerators got fantastically weird during COVID. Not only were we cleaning apples with Lysol, but we were, doing the same thing with our boxes. And it's really cool what people have in the refrigerators. We transformed that now with so many remote and hybrid teams around the world. It's really fun to get a tour of people's office or out their office window to see the context as to where people are working and engaging with us from. So that's just two. That's super easy to do. Super
I
easy.
love I love that. It takes me back takes me back all those many 4.5 years ago, when we first were first starting this. First of all, two things I want to say.
Yeah.
One, you made the point that you were doing some research on this before the
Yes.
pandemic hit, when we thought Corona was a beer, right?
Right.
And
Totally.
yeah, and one of the points that I often make is that the pandemic was not the igniter; it was simply the accelerant of many of the things that we see today. But gosh, I had people talking to me about remote work, 15 years before the pandemic, but that obviously kicked it way up. The
Yeah.
other thing, it just reminds me, like the first week
Yeah.
of the pandemic, and some of our US people may or may not know that in Canada, you guys were serious about when you said lockdown, you meant lockdown.
Yeah.
In most of the United States, lockdown was a suggestion.
Right.
And but still, we were, everybody was just not in. And I had, just like Sanjay, canceled all of these in-person speaking engagements. And I was just trying to find something that would work in a virtual thing. I knew nothing about nobody knew anything about how to do it really very well.
Right.
We were like Zoom. Is that with a U or two O's? I don't know. And we were trying to figure it all out. And there was this exercise that I read about online somewhere that I did, and it was a total and utter
Oh
disaster.
no.
Yes, I thought, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be so much fun. It involved people in different screens doing things and passing things to somebody on the other screen, and all of this. And back in those days, we didn't know how to use Zoom, and we thought, that a reading of like 20 megabits per second was really great. And so there was so much latency. It was slow, it was awful. And we've all come a long way, haven't we?
Yeah, I was pretty happy to have Zoom stock before COVID.
Yeah,
It was a great day, really, at the end of the day. But
yeah.
yeah, it's interesting though because I was doing a lot of research with project managers, so I do a lot of work with PMI, and project managers have been working virtually for years.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's one of their pillars is how do we
sure.
engage that team? How do we engage a multicultural team? How do we engage a multi-time zone team? They've been dealing with that for years. So that's where the research originated. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, super fun.
So
right.
I'm going to ask the question, and people are on different sides of the fence on this one. But in terms of engagement, I
Yeah,
know because we all know a bazillion speakers, and
right.
if you talk to 100 speakers, you'll get 50 to say, "Oh my goodness, thank goodness we could get back in front of the audiences. I was ready to eat my own spleen rather than do another Zoom." On the flip side, people will be like, "Thank goodness this opened up the market. I'm never getting on an airplane again. I'm never going near this. I'm sending a hologram." Where do you stand on that spectrum? And what do you feel is better for a typical organization?
Yeah, so I think that Zoom or a virtual meeting or a hybrid meeting, because they're all different kind of beasts. I think they all have a place. So I think what we're beginning to realize is that there are a lot of information meetings that can be done this way super effectively. So stuff that's information driven, let's do that online. Let's grind that out, but let's get people together. The managers that I coach who work in a remote space. I encourage them to get together every quarter if their budget allows, and
Yeah,
or at least once a year with their team, because those in-person relationship building, all those things matter when it comes to solving problems, having a connection so that people will feel enabled and feel comfortable to be able to be contrarian, but in a polite way. Those relationships, they pay long-term dividends. So as a speaker, my style is definitely best served in person. But I think being able to do a hybrid version of what I do is great. We figured out ways to get people engaged online, and then we just have to use different tools for the full virtual. I enjoy personally being in person, but we've had some great successes. I mean, if you pick your activities and you pick for the industry that you're working in, you can have great success. And that's where that theory, the multiple intelligence stuff comes in of being able to pick for your industry and the learners who are inside the room.
Yeah, it used to mean, and it still does mean a lot. For a lot of people, hybrid just means we're going to stick a video camera in the back, and anyone who wants to watch can join. So I just did an event. I was in Columbia, South Carolina last week, and that's
Nice.
what they did. There was only about 50 people in the room, but they had 80 people in remote sites and stuff. And their request to me was, hey, we want you to make this interactive with the people offline. With the
Yep.
again, to what you were saying, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I much prefer to do the in-person. I want to be able to spit on the audience. I want them to
Yeah.
be able to spit on me.
And
There's like me, having a
I
virtual.
enjoy the spit too. Yeah.
Yeah, especially
Exactly.
post-COVID, not during COVID. Nobody liked
No,
this.
no, no. I had to stop licking my audiences once COVID hit. It was weird.
It
Um,
was weird.
so no, but that idea that I like the in-person, and I don't think you can substitute it. I mean, we've seen that when technology comes in, people think it's going to replace human interaction. I mean,
Mhm.
we're old enough to remember when the ATM came out, people are like, "Oh, we don't need bank tellers. No one's ever going to the bank again." Or when printers became commonplace, people were like, "Oh, we don't need paper anymore." Or sorry, not printers, but monitors and computers.
Right,
Everyone's like,
right,
everything's on the screen. We don't need paper. And they found in both cases, actually the opposite effect happened, which is paper sales went up
right.
and there was more interaction with the tellers. So it's not, I've never been a believer of it's going away. It's changing form. And to the point you made
Yeah.
too, saying if it's just informationally based, we can do it. Yeah, or we can just send an email,
Right.
depending on what that information is. Like,
Right.
Let's really take a good look at our SLAs. Like, what are our service level agreements? How are we going to do this thing? What are the expectations? And then let's look at how we can, in your hybrid version, what do we need to do? We need to be more attentive if we're going to do that ahead of time to say, okay, this is what we're going to send out to these locations. These are the people who are going to be in production behind the scene. They're going to feed this question, this question, this question. They're going to moderate the discussion in this way. If
yeah,
you want your hybrid to work, you have to really invest even more than doing it in person or doing it fully virtually. Hybrid is the trickiest one of the three, in my opinion.
Yeah. You have to be very intentional and it has to be very well
100%,
designed ahead of time. Yeah.
100%, 100%.
Well,
I
in a
also,
similar vein, then you're talking about you have to do things differently when you're making a presentation that is virtual or hybrid versus totally in person. What about, do you have any thoughts on leadership style when you're a leader and you are leading a virtual or a hybrid team? What do you, obviously, you have to do something differently. And the thing that concerns who push back against work and say, well, because I can't see them and I can't see if they're working. Well, how did you know if they were working before? And all of those kinds of things. What do leaders have to do differently in that environment as opposed because it's as Sanjay said, it's not going away. So
No.
we can either decide we're going to stay the way we have been and become ineffective, or we can change what we're doing to become effective in that environment. What do you see as the changes where leaders need to make changes in order to be more effective?
Yeah, so in Virtually Engaged, we talk a lot about key practices of a leader of a remote team. One of the things early on that we found in
Hmm.
our study was that you need to advocate for resources. So early on, a lot of the organizations, depending on the country you were in, you had access to different technology. That's beginning to level out a little bit better, but that's got to be a key
Even
focus.
out, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's got
Okay.
to be a key focus on how we make sure that people have enough bandwidth in their internet, make sure that people have access to the right types of tools,
Hmm.
video, all that kind of stuff. So that's important.
Hmm.
Another thing that goes missteps for leaders is they often the person who's closest to them geographically are often the team members that get the choice jobs or the higher prestige jobs. So being
Hmm.
mindful of passing along the choice
Yeah.
activities so that everybody's feeling included, so that people with the right skills and the right personalities are being placed in the right jobs. So that's why getting together face-to-face socially, another leadership aspect, is so important so that you can begin to understand what people's strengths are, and what they bring to the team and how they want to be challenged. That's part of that building of trust, regardless of whether you're in person or virtually. Building trust and collaboration becomes absolutely essential. So yeah, advocating for resources, how we assign tasks and jobs, getting together socially so we can understand people's strength stretches and how they want to be challenged. And then at the end of the day, really celebrating the differences of what we have. That's the value of working in an integrated remote team, is understanding what people's differences are, and how that makes our teams better, how that makes our product output better, is by looking at what our differences are.
What about coaching? I talk with people who say, well, I've only ever coached someone from 3 feet away, not 3,000 miles, or say, how many kilometers would that be in your world? A lot of
Multiplied by
kilometers.
4.68239.
Okay. So a lot of, but, what about that? I think you can't just say, well, I'm not going to coach you because you're not in the same room as me. I think you have to learn to coach in a different environment. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that the value of remote is really in group coaching. I think that group coaching helps to bring people forward. I think that's the one-on-one coaching is more challenging for a lot of leaders because they feel disconnected. So I think that the group coaching actually works a little bit better virtually in order to bring people forward. So that's what I advocate for, is to set up learning circles. We follow kind of that idea of circles, of tribes, of communities. That is really, let's use the technology in a way that it's built to work. Asynchronous coaching is another thing that can be done.
Yeah.
Any of those tools are benefited by the internet.
And what about AI in terms of virtual engagement? Is this throwing a wrench in the plan? Is it more helpful? Is it less helpful? Where are you? Or is it
where am I with
too
AI?
early to tell?
Yeah, I think AI has its place. I think AI is important in automating some of the functions that are mundane or rote. I think that if we're going to benefit, it's like robotics. Robotics are really good at doing, specified tasks, and as we begin to write those codes for AI to output for us, that's great. But there's still the creative side behind what's happening with the AI. It's creating new jobs, it's creating new opportunities. I think that the space for thought leadership and leadership is not going to be hindered by AI, because I think that I'm not sure if we're at the point yet where AI can actually respond in that way, but I do think it's beneficial for automating and expediting tasks. But the output is still too generalized. That's coming out of AI. It's not specific enough. It's not new enough. In part of our research, we looked at what teams want, and part of it is a challenging learning environment, but it's also a unique learning environment. So work has to be a unique environment. The leaders who are doing the best are helping to create unique environments where people can succeed, where they feel connected, a unique environment where they're doing optimized tasks in exciting ways. Like that, this is the differentiation, and that's what leaders who are able to think outside of the AI are able to create for their staff.
Cool. Okay.
Great.
Sorry. Were you going to add on that?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I have nothing.
Okay. So, virtual for sure, but your background and your expertise, and you have a bazillion years experience and been in front of a whole whack of people, is more in the in-person stuff.
Yeah.
So what are some of the important aspects to really make sure when you're doing this in-person stuff, what are some of the important principles, the key concepts that people either mess up or really need to include to ensure success?
Yeah, so if we're talking about doing energizing activities, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, just not even necessarily energizing. Energizing any sort of activity when you're looking for engagement in something. And it could be energizing, or it could be think tank, and it could be whatever. But where do people mess up? Because I know that about you. You know, I've seen you present enough times. You are an engagement expert. Like you know how to get an audience going. You get them doing ridiculous things. I'm probably going to actually, you can start thinking about this now. I'm going to ask you about some hilarious flub ups that happen or big no-nos or huge faux pas. I want to hear about them. But yeah, for here,
Excellent.
what are
I'd
some
love
of
to do that.
the key principles to remember? Like I'll give you an example of what I'm looking for. So one of the
Yep.
things that if I'm coaching someone in speaking, I always
Yep.
say, quit being the hero of your own story. And
Right.
if it's a really good story and it's about you, then tell them the third person it's not about you. It can't just be me, right? Or look to be vulnerable, or these kind of. I also never embarrass an audience member, right?
Right.
That's a big no. I've seen people do that all the time, and I'm like, because they do it for the cheap laugh, and I just want to smack them. And I go, you want to gain trust? It's the stupidest thing you can do. So those are the kind of things that, with your years of experience, what are some of the
Sure.
things that are really important?
So number one, always stop when it's the most fun. So what happens is people leaders tend to, if you're doing something and you're energized, let's stop when it's the most fun. So you're probably sitting there and you're thinking about, I talk about a thing called the team swell. And the way the team swell works is we often have these projects or these outcomes that never have an end. Everybody can think of who's sitting here listening. They're like, oh my God, I've got this project that's been running for 12 years, and it never
Hmm.
seems to have an end. So let's first of all, let's redesign what we're doing so that we have a B, an M, and an E. Let's have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's always really exciting when Christmas is coming or Hanukkah is coming or the Christmas or summer is coming or whatever, that we can anticipate that in the beginning. That anticipation phase where we're visualizing and we're getting excited about what's about to happen is is that initial bit of energy. In the beginning, the leader's kind of pushing that and they're kind of, really instrumental in kind of getting people together and formulating what that looks like. Then the middle is when we're in the work. And if we're doing our job right as a manager or a leader, we will have that ignition point that's magical inside of every team. You never know when it's going to happen, and the production effort will skyrocket. And what we forget is once we crest that top of the production, that's when we want to get into the end of the project, and we want to move into a new ignition, a new beginning. So we want to close off the activity. We want to say, hey, thanks, team. That was amazing. We accomplished X, Y, and Z. Let's reformulate and let's launch again, because the launch is the exciting part. And the closure allows us to stop when it's the most fun. So that's number one. When we're leading and guiding conversation amongst our teams, remember to switch and move up energy. Too often we sit in one place and we're constantly doing everything in that one place. If you're going to have a meeting, have a walk around meeting. Have everybody come to your meeting from their favorite coffee shop and show off the coffee shops. Move around when you're inside the conference room or you're inside your meeting room. Have people move from chair to chair, from space to space. Sitting in one spot tends to slow down our metabolism and slows down our energy, and we're not getting the best production out of our teams. Match for MIQ. So MIQ is the basis of the business that cared about people. And if we start to look at the job, Howard Gardner did this research. He's a Harvard professor, and he wrote a book called Frames of Mind. And he said there's 8 different types of learning intelligences. And from those 8 different types of learning intelligences, people are predisposed based on those learning modalities of jobs that they would find engaging: kinesthetic, visual, mathematical, logical, interpersonal, naturalistic. And if we can begin to pick the tasks based on the type of person who's in the room with their learning modality, they're going to love to do it, and they're going to want to be engaged. For me, I flunked math in grade 10. Math is not my modality, but I know it is for you, Sanjay. But so if, as a mathematical logical, I'm going to set up activities that are quantifiable, that has a winner and a loser. These are the ways that you're going to become involved. For me, I'm a kinesthetics person, so I want to have stuff I can hold on to. I want to try the activities. I want to move around. I want to make sure. So I'm going to have physical activities for people like me. They're your police officers, your dancers, your manufacturers. Those are those teams. Guys like you who might be engineers or rocket scientists. They're going to want to do different types of activities. I'm working with a project manager from NASA, and she said my team hates doing engagement activities. And I said, you're just doing the wrong ones. Do this. I gave her the activity. I said, do commonalities. She went and they asked for more because it respected who they were.
And I guess a really good activity too crosses over. So I do some activities, and you're right. I mean, in terms of the modalities,
Yeah.
I like the logic puzzles. I like that kind of thing. And
Right.
but there are things you can do. Like I actually do this logic puzzle, and I get people to do it in groups, and
Okay.
it's actually a pretty simple thing. And the punchline is this: is because they do it in a group, they
Yeah.
mess it up. If
Okay.
you just gave it to one individual, especially if they have sort of a logic brain, they can do it pretty quickly. But
Right.
because I've set it up, here's 5 or 6, and they only get one set of chips to play with, there's an assumption that says, oh, it's a group. We must all play together
Right.
and be buddies. And so there's this, there's a bunch of punchlines, but one of the punchlines is sometimes we take group activities and we make them individuals, and sometimes we
Mhm.
take individual activities and we make them groups. And so to be able to understand the strengths of your team, and that
Right.
is this person's the social person, this person's the creative person, this person's the logic person, this person, et cetera, et cetera. That's how you're going to get the most out of your team. And so when you are getting those activities, it's not like, all right, here's the logic puzzle. Only the logic people hate it. Everyone else get bored. But can you bring in elements of this part of it is that this is the
Right.
salesy piece, this is the humor piece, this is the creativity piece.
100%. So that's multimodal learning, and that's how you want to set it up so that so in MIQ we look at what are our top 3 learning modalities, and we want to figure out what the top 3 for our learning team for our team is, because I believe that good team building is good team learning. So team building is actually learning, so it's a learning muscle, and that's how we do good team building. Is there are good educational outcomes, it's measurable at the end of the day. I just launched teambuildingschool.com, and we take you through the process of how to build learning tools, how to take your team from transactional into interactive, because good team building is good team learning, and that's what we try to do at the school is to really help managers and leaders to say, hey, you know what? I want more out of my team. I want them to be more engaged. I want them to be excited, because it's your legacy that you're leading at the end of the day. So how do you lead a legacy that when you walk out the door, you've got capacity, you've got output, you've got profitability, you've got safety, you've got all those things. That's what we're looking for, and that's what we help to do.
So let me ask you this, and this is maybe there's research on this or maybe not, but let's pretend, someone hires you to come in and do something with
I
a group.
love pretending. I love
Okay.
pretending. Let's pretend.
He
Actually,
also
let's
loves
do
when you
someone
say he also loves when you say someone hires you.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah, right.
pretending
Let's
part.
not
That's the
pretend that
pretending part.
part. Let's
Okay.
actually make that real.
But
Sorry.
you know nothing about the group.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my hypothetical. So you don't know if it's a group of engineers or salespeople or executives or what.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's going to be a correlation between modalities and
Mhm.
certain sectors or certain divisions. So
Correct.
if you're going generic and
Yeah.
you're playing the probabilities, what does the average, consumer look like?
Yeah, what
So
would you be willing to bet on if you didn't know the
Right.
outcome?
so we can look at the industry. So I know that
No, I'm
they're
saying
in
you don't know the industry. It's just a group of random people. Like, yeah, yeah, I'll be a little more specific.
so
I
like a
I
ticket sales
hate I
event.
hate when like speakers um, force interactivity that they haven't earned the right to.
Right.
So, like the classic example, the one that drives me nuts is you just get in there, person gets up there and they're, high energy or not, but they're like, all right, everyone on your chairs, let's dance. And so the
Right.
first
Right.
thing out
Right.
of their mouth, I'm like, no, I don't want to
I
dance.
don't do that.
No, right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing is, I look around the room and I go, everyone's dancing, but they're all like looking, going, I don't want to be doing this. I'm just being
Right.
polite.
No,
Right.
And
but
so I'm
some of
going,
them
that's a
do.
big
Some
strike.
of them do want to do that. But the
Right. What
problem is
percentage?
it's just a small subset, and you've got an entire group of people, and you've excluded so many.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my question.
Yeah, and I mean, it comes down to being an experienced speaker at the end of the day. So I have a couple of ways that I start my presentations so that you can feel through the audience. So you've got to do that. Whether it's a generic audience, if it's a ticketed event, you can get a sense. There's cultural things you can look at. I read the room as I'm walking in. I'm always at the back of the room meeting people as they're coming in, and you start to feel that energy. You start to see who's kind of moving around, and what they're doing inside the room, what the purpose of the event is. You have to read the room. That's at the end of the day. There's not one magic bullet. If there was a magic bullet, I mean, I guess it's Ozempic at this point. We're gonna take that magic pill, and it's gonna solve all our problems. Not really. We have to be holistic. We have to look at all the data inputs that we can get and then make our best guess. And that's why you hire professionals who know how to do that so that they can shift. I come with a leaders pack, and we've got a program called Leaders Pack, which has hundreds of activities in it so that you can go, all right, well, we're going to pass up the pipe cleaners now, right? We're going to, okay, everybody,
Right.
here's the pay, like, and you begin to run your activities that way, but that just comes with experience, right? That's
Yeah. So what goes through my mind as I'm hearing you talk, Tyler, is
yeah,
all of the things that you're talking about, mostly you have been using in the context of a program, an event, something
right.
where you're speaking. But it occurs to me that all of the things that you're talking about can be adapted to real life. And so
100%.
when you say you read the room as the speaker, well, I think a good leader reads the room as a leader, reads the
Totally.
group that they're in, that they adapt the kinds of things. They learn what kind of learners they have. And it's not so that we can pander to different people, but it is so that we can get the most output from them because we know that if we relate to them in a certain way, that they're going to produce more than if we relate in a way that doesn't work for them.
Would you
Yeah, I
say
mean,
that it's
research.
fair to say that contented cows give better milk? Is that what you're trying
I
to say?
think, in fact, I love that phrase. Let me write that down. How
Yeah,
did you
write
say?
that one
What
down.
did you?
But
What
but
did you?
and that's what you're saying. Like, but you said, to get the most out of the employees. But I think it goes more than that too. It's about and we've talked about this in previous episodes. It's psychological safety. It's getting people to the point where they get to go to work. They don't have to go to work. And by paying attention to that kind of stuff, like if people don't like to dance,
Yeah.
don't have dance parties. Or if people love to dance, have a dance party. Like you can do 2 minutes of dancing before the meeting. And I'm being, I'm being a little facetious saying that, but the idea of paying attention, noticing, and more importantly, acting on what it is you notice, and
Yeah.
so that people are feeling like, hey, they're catering towards me. They care.
Well,
And
and that's the idea of MIQ is that, we all have our phone or our device that we use, and the information that's being curated to us is being done based on our very own little algorithm that we're creating based on our heat maps and what we're clicking through and all that kind of stuff. And our learning is as individual as the device that we use, and people who become engaged. I mean, the numbers are out there: 70% fewer safety incidents, 17% higher productivity, profitability, 20% higher sales. Like those are the numbers. And if we start to take those numbers and we say, oh, geez, I don't have enough staff. Well, I'll tell you this: if you can get 10% more out of 10 of your staff, well, that's one FTE. That's why engagement matters. I mean, that's why I sit on the pulpit is to say, you know what? Get them excited, get them engaged, and get that. And the clearest shot I have ever seen in 28 years of business is through people's learning domains because it feels customized to me. You're speaking to me the way I want to be spoken to. Dale Carnegie talked about it and how to win friends and influence people, right? It's the same philosophy, but we have a measurable scientific way of saying, okay, this is your learning style. You work in manufacturing because you like these things. You are an accountant because you like these things. I can generalize that, and as a manager, and I need to deliver information to a bunch of bookkeepers. Well, I want to give them the facts and the numbers. If it's a bunch of salespeople, I want to talk about how it's based on relationships. I'm not saying that they don't want to know the numbers, but part of what makes their heart sing is how people are affected by it, right? And that's why they gravitated to sales, at least the good ones, right? So let's start to drill down on that. Let's drill down there because that's where the answer is. That's where the magic is.
all right, I'm looking at the clock here. We are starting to
Yeah,
wrap this thing up. I want to hear some of the crazy stories because I know
Yeah, yeah.
our, I'll say it politically incorrect. You are a nutball.
I am
Um,
enough.
And you get people doing stuff like, tell me some of this craziness that's gone on stage, or some of the highlights of weird, wacky Tyler Hayden things that have gone on.
I had some vice presidents of one of the top 5 banks in Canada, and we were playing a game that I like to call In It to Win It. It's based on Minute to Win It. And one of the games was you had to put whipped cream on top of your head and then, or shaving cream on top of your head and then
Oh,
throw
was
cheese.
that kind of a party? Okay. Yeah.
This is fun. And they ripped their shirts off. They covered their whole bodies. And the next thing you know, because they bankers want to get the most number of things. And they knew that if they had more surface area, they could hold more cheesies. And so they said the head is
Yeah,
not
because
a,
bankers are not known for ripping their clothes off.
no, but
I'm
they are
saying.
definitely want more. They want to collect more fees. And they were looking at these as fees.
So at the risk of saying something nice to you, Tyler,
Yeah.
but that shows your genius, because if you're able to get bankers to voluntarily do that, it means you picked the right activity for the right group. Because
Right.
there are certain people, if you said put whipped cream on your head, they're like, where are the exits? I'm on it. What
Right,
kind of
yeah.
cult is this?
And it's about the progression. So because team building is team learning, it's progress. Like it wasn't the first activity, right? We built to a space where people felt safe. They felt that they wanted to do this. There was a camaraderie, there was safety, there's all that stuff. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's not just a give and go, right?
The
Yeah.
language I always say is you have to earn your right to risk.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. And so one of my rules is it's challenge by choice. And if you're comfortable challenging yourself this much, just challenge yourself a little bit more. And that's all I ever ask of people. And you always have the right to pass, which means you can sit off and not participate, but we agree not to be judgmental of those people that sit. Everybody sits for a different reason.
I do something similar, the right to pass, but part of it is laughing at the person and say loser. So, but they can pass if they
We
want.
don't do that. No, we're not into
Does
that.
that defeat the purpose? Is that right? Okay,
Oh,
can you
yeah,
whip up one more story?
Yeah. Okay. So we were doing, let's see, what's another really fun one? I came in, we were doing it was a camp related thing. So we actually took over a camp and we did like a traditional camping kind of high ropes courses, canoeing. And they wanted to have a night of song. And I've done some training with a Lipan Apache in the United States on survival and that kind of stuff. So I camouflaged my whole body, dug myself a little scout pit, and as it became my turn to kind of lead a part of the campfire, I was about 6 feet away from the campfire. People were walking all around me the whole time, and I just came up out of the ground. And yeah, that was a very scary moment for the people who were sitting like about 2 feet beside me.
And
And
after your
did you
programming, do you
sing?
offer free counseling
I
and
did.
therapy,
Yeah,
or
I did. I sang a song. I did sing a song. Anyway, yeah,
Is
crazy.
that what scared them? Was the song?
I do have the voice of an angel. I have a voice of an angel.
really?
Maybe an archangel, but an
Yeah.
angel
Okay.
nonetheless.
Okay. Question now. So for our audience members, and this does happen from time to time, where actually our guests do get hired. So if someone's going, this Tyler guy sort of intrigues me, it almost sounds like he might know what he's talking about, and our organization might benefit. So if you pulled the wool over someone's eyes, can you tell us how they might get a hold of you?
Yep. So you can come visit me online. I've got my cyberspacious home at www.tylerhayden.com. So TYLERHAYDEN.com. You can also head
Not
over.
to be confused with Richard Haddon.
No,
but
but
yes.
that's my evil twin brother.
Right.
We also, if you head over to teambuildingschool.com, there's a great free course that you can take on, and it'll give you a free activity, access to a free white paper download. Head over there to Team Building School, join us, and learn how to build teams better. Right? Let's build more engaged people.
Yeah.
And I think we can't underemphasize it enough. The idea of, I don't think we need to sell anyone on this idea of we want people engaged, we want to build strong teams, et cetera, et cetera. But there are two choices. Choice number one is you learn how to do it and you become really good and you do the research and you go to these programs and you become an expert. Or choice number two, bring someone in. What you don't want to do is half-ass it, because if you're half-assing it, then people kind of cross their arms and go, this crap doesn't work with us. And you actually have the opposite effect of what you're trying to do.
You do more damage.
You're better off doing nothing than doing a poor job, or, again, confusing modalities and making people feel scared because they're going to put me on the spot. They're going to make me do karaoke. I don't want to do karaoke.
It's about sliding inside. And I'll leave one last message. We have team building has 3 Fs. There's fun, fast forward, and fix. Sometimes you are doing team building for fun.
That's 4 Fs. I'm sorry.
Fast forward has 2 Fs. Fast forward is when you integrate it into your training tools of how you're training and how you're what you're teaching. And fix is when you have a dysfunctional team, you bring in a professional and they fix the problems that are broken. So those are the 3 Fs, and you can learn more about those.
It's kind of crazy too, because normally if you ask Richard to say 3 F words,
it ain't fun, fast forward, and fix.
Weird. Well,
we are out of time, and this has been out of control. It's been wonderful. This is great. Tyler, thank you. And I know that our audience, I won't be there when they're actually watching the recording, but I know that our audience has thoroughly enjoyed this. So,
by the way, there's comments in the chat box that keep coming up. They're asking, why is Tyler so good looking? Is he single, et cetera, et cetera. Right. But we didn't have time to get to those comments. We'll have to bring you back so we can.
We'll have to have bring you back for another
swipe left.
time. So.
Just swipe left. I'm just saying, swipe left.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you again, Sanjay. Any parting shots before I say my last line?
We'll see you guys October 15th. That's our next call. And yeah, Mr. Hayden.
That's right. Okay. Thanks again, everybody, for being here. And we'll see you every other Wednesday.
See you, folks.
Bye now.